Hi, folks. This is Abel James, and thanks so much for listening to Fat Burning Man, where we talk about real food and real results. I'm coming back on the grid after about 6 months of traveling the world. There's a lot more that we're going to be talking about as far as those adventures go and what you guys can learn from them. But right now, we're actually in the mountains of Arizona. We rented this place for about a week. We're doing a cooking class on the Wild Diet, which is the name of our new book, which is not only a cookbook with about 50 plus of our favorite family recipes from both sides of the family and a lot of the community as well, but also some memoirs that's written in a similar style to Vinny's book, Fitness Confidential. I consider him a very good friend. He's on the show today. His full name is Vinny Tortorich, and you may know him from America's Angriest Trainer, and also the author of one of my favorite books, and soon to be another one, but the name of that is Fitness Confidential. We're going to be talking about, I guess we start with inappropriate banter because that's just inevitable with a guy like Vinny. We also talk on the show about how Vinny fights cancer with ketosis, and we even cover how to row across oceans on fat. Now, before we get to the show, I just have a quick request from you. Please, if you haven't already, leave a review for Fat Burning Man on iTunes or on YouTube or wherever you might be listening to or watching the show. And also, if you'd consider buying my book, it's going to be out very soon on April 7th, and it's basically the best that we've got. It's called The Wild Diet. You can pre-order it anywhere books are available to be sold, including Amazon, the internet. But the best place to go is wilddietbook.com, and we're doing a bunch of giveaways and fun stuff for you guys. So go to wilddietbook.com, enter your email address, and we'll set you right up. All right, so our show this week is with a trainer out in Hollywood who helps helpless celebrities, Vinny Tortorich. Let's go hang out with him. Hey everyone, welcome to Fat Burning Man. We're here with a good friend, Vinny Tortorich, and he is just rocking it. We're going to be talking about, he has a new book coming out, some exciting options, news, and stuff like that. But Vinny, first off, how are you, man?
I'm doing good, man. You look great as always.
Thank you, good
I,
sir.
I hate everything about you. You're good looking. Every time I have you on my show, the Angriest Trainer podcast, everyone goes, "Oh, he's so cute. He's so good looking. Oh my God, have you seen his body?" And I'm sitting there going, yes, I have. I've seen his body. Yes, he's good looking, and he has that deep radio voice. I hate everything about the guy, but I can't hate you. I
It's
love
not
you
even
anyway.
fair, Vinny. It's really
And
not.
just to put a cherry on that Sunday, if we could talk about cherries and Sundays
let's
on your
go for
show,
it. Yeah, man.
you have Allison,
That's true.
which is like the cutest girl there is.
The best girl in the world. Yeah,
Yeah,
she is
yeah.
fantastic. She's running around. We're cooking up a bunch of meals and doing some cooking videos in the kitchen. So
Oh, cool.
she's like running all around. The dog is too. It's pretty awesome. But yeah, she's the best. Anyone who doesn't know Allison, she's been on my show a few times. She'll be coming up a lot more. But I think one of the great things about her is she's so like experiential. You know what I mean? Like when
Yeah.
she eats food, she feels, you can like just watch her eat food. That's one of my favorite things. You just watch how much she's enjoying it. And I think you can attest to that. We've been to dinner a few times.
Whenever I sit down with you guys, but I get a feeling that when she goes to the bathroom, she has that same enjoyment, you know?
Don't we all secretly?
But have you ever seen her go to the bathroom? Because when she eats food, she kind of half closes her eyes and she smiles. And I'm sitting there going, I wonder if she looks like that when she takes a dump. I need to know. Abel, next
I love
time
how
she
your
goes into
mind
the
works.
bathroom, you need to go in with her so that we can see exactly, because she's beautiful no matter what. She's got to be hot taking a dump, right?
Right,
I mean,
sure.
yeah.
I love how it's been, 90 seconds, 2 minutes? It took us 2 minutes for you to get there.
Yeah, it doesn't take me very long.
So what are you up to other than that?
Well, you had mentioned a book. It's not coming out just yet, but
Yeah.
I'm 2/3. As you know, your book is going to be launched, so you've been through the process now.
Sure.
I'm about 2/3 of the way through the writing of my book, and from what I can see, I'm going to probably put this book out the same way I put the last book out,
Mhm.
because we beat the odds, as you know.
Yeah,
As a matter of
crushed it.
fact, we talked about that the last time we had dinner. You guys were out here, a couple of months ago, and you went with Penguin, right? Is that your
Yeah.
publisher?
Penguin Random House.
Which they offered me a deal on my second book, which I turned down.
Yeah.
Now, my agent will go back to them, probably Penguin and all of the top ones, because we were in New York and four of them wanted my next book,
Yeah.
which was shocking because none of them wanted my first book.
Right. It's funny
Yeah.
how that works.
Yeah, well, two of them wanted my first book, but they wanted to give me like nickels and dimes for
Right.
it. It was just like crazy. And you say, well, we don't even know who you are.
Yeah.
And I went, well, I have a podcast. And they were like, what's a podcast?
Right.
Now they're like, can we see your podcast numbers? And can you show us it? Now they're all hip to podcasts, right?
Totally. It's crazy.
And we went in and no one, everyone got close to the numbers we wanted, but no one gave us exactly the numbers. So I went, okay, well, you guys can miss out again, and I will go and do another book and sell 1 million copies of that book.
Yeah.
And you guys can screw up again. But I promised my agent, who's the sweetest woman in the world, Danielle Shvetkov, I said, once the book is complete, I will give you a couple of weeks to take it out to these numbnuts again, and they can see what we have, and they will get one more shot at the sequel to Fitness Confidential. And if they want it, then they can have it. If not, I'm done with them forever. As a matter of fact, I don't want them to offer me a deal because, as you know, they will offer me just enough money to make me go, should I take this or should I take this, and the whole thing. Yet I know what I can make by going straight to Amazon and doing what we did the last time, because that book is still selling.
Yeah. Well, it's a great book. So anyone who hasn't read it, it's one of my favorites. It's written in a memoir style, and mine is as well. And I like that so much better because it feels so real. It's just like we're sitting around talking about it, as opposed to someone who's wagging their finger at you, kind of saying this is right and this is what you need to do. It's preposterous that someone in some ways would use an instrument like a book to do something like that, because it's bad enough when you're in person.
Well, it's funny because one of the things that we kept hearing the reason Dean, my co-author, Dean Laurie, and I were even in New York was because Fitness Confidential was up for the Audible Book of the Year read by an author.
Yeah.
Which was crazy to us because we almost didn't do an audiobook.
Really?
And we didn't feel like hiring an Abel James voice guy to read the book.
Screw that guy.
So I went into the studio and read the book myself, since it was my words in my book.
Yeah.
And, there I am up against Dolly Parton for Book of the Year read by the author. And I'm like sitting there going, in what world am I up against Dolly Parton?
Totally.
Turns out neither one of us won. But we were one of the final five. And so we were in New York, and it was back in May, and it was a black tie event. And everyone wanted to meet with me. Judith Regan, we went to, Regan, and, we figured we would be talking to one of Regan's underlings.
Yeah.
Judith Regan walks into the room and does a 45-minute pitch to Dean and me. And we're like sitting there going, but you're Judith Regan. We had the same kind of thing at HarperCollins, the same kind of thing at Penguin, the same kind of thing at Harlequin.
Yeah.
We think of Harlequin as being, one of those, they put out those cheap novels.
Right.
Harlequin has a huge, just a huge section for fitness books. As a matter of fact,
I met with them too.
Yeah, but JJ Virgin, they put out The Virgin Diet and all those books. JJ is a friend of the podcast, and they did the big push. So it was kind of became between them and Regan, and we decided not to go with either. But the reason I started telling this was what? It has something to do with them missing the ball. I can't even remember why I even started the story, Abel. I'm that old that I can't remember why I'm talking anymore.
Well, you said that the first book was largely memoirs and awesome stories of your life.
Yes. Thank you for bringing me back in.
Sure.
That's why I love this young blood. You need to be my co-host. Anna Vocino is out. Abel James is in.
Piece of cake. Get me
rid
right
of
in
the
there,
boobs,
man.
bring in the pecs.
That's right.
What they kept saying was that they kept saying that I created a genre. And I was like, what genre did I create?
Yeah.
They said, well, you did the first fitness book where it's a memoir, yet you're giving fitness advice.
Right.
And I said, well, no one did that before me. And it's like, no.
Really?
And it turns out that you're now following that kind of thing.
Well, I've read a few, like when I was getting into this, I was reading books from like 100 years ago, and a lot of
Right.
those were like all that style, right? They were all kind of the frank, kind of in your face, overly misogynistic style of writing that just
Right.
kind of demanded that you pay attention, almost like if Mad Men wrote books back then.
Right.
And I think it's like a really effective way of just getting to people. And most books today are just not written in a way that makes sense at all. Like I think the nature of what we do actually as like content creators of podcasting, whatever that is kind of make our own formats anyway to tell stories more than anything
Right.
else.
And it has to be that way. We can go back and start yelling at people, but that doesn't work.
Yeah.
And some people, out of the 800 some odd reviews, I think I have 19 one-star reviews, which is crazy because that is a very small amount out of getting close to 1,000 reviews. And the one problem people have with the book, those 19 people out of the 100, not hundreds, but close to 100,000 people that's bought the book now, is that it wasn't prescriptive enough.
Mm-hmm.
They wanted more of a just tell me what to do book. And I
Right.
refused to write that book.
Yeah.
And I'm glad, you and I talked about your book at dinner, and I'm glad that you're writing the kind of book you are. And I can't wait for it to come out. I can't wait to read it. And I
Thanks,
can't
man.
wait to bring you on the show to
Yeah.
talk about your book because I know what's in it. I know what you're doing, and I'm excited about your book. So,
Oh, right on. Well, I
you know,
appreciate you saying that.
no, I'm not saying, I'm not trying to blow smoke up your butt. I really feel that way about you and what you're doing. I mean, you're doing a great job over there.
Thanks, man. We're just improvising, kind of. What this is, it's a whole new format, right? It's a whole new business model. It's been really interesting. Actually, we were just out in your neck of the woods in Hollywood with Denny, the band leader of the Tim McGraw band,
Yeah.
and they were out there for the Oscars, and so Denny and I are working on an album together. So we were out there and just talking about like where the whole media thingy is going because it's changing, and we actually have as you and I with our own shows and people who care about like what we have to say, following the truth instead of the money. It's incredible how much pull we have now, and like you said, the publishers are seeing it. The people in the picture world, the movie world are definitely seeing it too, and it's pretty nuts. It still feels like we're just talking into our computers, right? But the world's
Yeah.
really kind of going in that direction. It's neat.
People are paying attention. When you think about it, guys like you and me now have bigger audiences than some radio shows, like top 50 market radio shows. We
Right.
bring in bigger numbers than they do. So people have to respect that. I was doing Anthony Cumia's show last week,
Yeah.
formerly of Opie and Anthony, one of, probably next to Howard Stern was the biggest guy on radio. He now has a podcast. And, we did that show and we started talking about numbers, Anthony and I, off the air,
Yeah.
because we're coming somewhat friends. And, he's shocked as to what a guy like me and, subsequently
A
you,
schmuck like
what,
you.
what we can do
Right.
with just no advertising, no ad people around us, no nothing, just, putting in, as they're calling it now, infotainment,
Right.
because it's not good enough for us to just give advice. We have to be entertaining and give advice.
Right.
And, I had a woman I was talking to yesterday, and she started a podcast. It's a running podcast. And she was saying, I want to start charging people for advertising, and I want to charge $500 per read on the show. And I asked her what her numbers were. And she goes,
Yeah.
well, I get about 800 downloads per show. And I didn't have the heart to tell her that the return on investment does not, indicate that you can charge $500 for that.
Right.
And she says, well, how do you do it? I said, well, most of mine is, they come in now because we have the numbers to support them paying us money.
Right.
Yeah. So when audible.com or Harry Shave Club advertises with us, or, and I know I'm getting into the business and people want to hear more about fitness, but you guys can wait. We'll get to that in a minute. And
It's kind of both. That's the interesting part.
Right.
Like we definitely have people who are listening because of podcasting, not necessarily.
yeah,
because of
it's
fitness
crazy,
stuff.
right?
Yeah.
And they said, well, what about, she said, what about your Villa Capelli? And I said, well, yeah, but they would not be advertising with us if there wasn't an ROI. They need
Yeah.
that return on investment. Otherwise, they don't like me. They don't care about me. They
Right.
don't love me or hate me. they are making money because of my show.
Right.
And no one will give you $500 because they like you. They
So
will
let's
only give
let's
you.
talk about that a little bit, like conscious capitalism, I guess is what it is. Because if you're, at the beginning, like with this show, I started it up pretty much as a service, not to sell product, not with any sort of weird agenda, mostly just because I got burned and I wanted to make sure that other people wouldn't by the
Right.
traditional kind of health culture and especially the culture of medicine that we have in the Western world. But then you realize that it's more important that you do this work than your actual other job that pays the bills. And so how do you pay the bills in a way that allows you to kind of like maintain the truth and the integrity of what you're doing? Because I think you've done a really good job. Like you're more like, especially reading your book, you're more anti-fitness corporation than almost anyone else is willing to admit. But you're finding a way to do it.
Well, it's very interesting because when we first started recording and no one was paying attention, I used to say on the show all the time that if Kellogg's or Gatorade, Coca-Cola Company came to me with Gatorade and said, "Here's $1 million,
Yeah.
we will advertise," I would have to turn them down because it doesn't fit with my narrative.
Yeah.
But you have to remember, you got into it just to say, "Hey, I got burned. I don't want other people to get burned." So you started with pure intentions. I started with a pure intention also of trying to get popular on the internet because I had written a book that nobody wanted to give me more than $20,000 to go ahead and write, but put out. So I said to myself, and I said it right from the beginning when I came on the air, I said, "I'm doing this podcast. I'm giving you guys free information because eventually I will try to sell you a book."
Yeah.
I did not make any bones about that.
Right.
That was not, whoa, now he's doing an end around on us or,
Right.
That kind of thing. It was all out front.
Mm-hmm.
I'm doing this. Hopefully when my book comes out, there will be an audience. And I think the book came out, we were getting probably downloads of about 100,000 a month at that time. And, we put the book out at that point, figuring if 10% of those people bought the book, we can sell 10,000 books, and that would be way more money than, and the book is still selling as the show finds more audience. As the book finds more audience, the show gets bigger and vice versa. But we never looked at advertising from the beginning. We didn't even think it was possible.
Yeah, it's a interesting model because it kind of becomes the new radio because people don't really listen to radio. That's one frustration that I do have today. It's so like scattered and frenetic that I think people are looking for that one thing that they can just tune in and listen to predictably. And someone who records a lot like you is almost a better friend than anything else. And I think it's interesting that you got a lot of feedback about not having prescriptive advice because your show isn't that prescriptive. It's more on the entertainment side. It's with, a comedian and you're a comedian and it rocks, but you also know a lot about health and that kind of like can organize the conversation. But it's, I think it's fascinating that that's kind of where it's going. That's where the truth is found these days because, man, you don't really find it on like Fox News.
No, you don't. Like this morning, I just recorded, Anna and I did, because we do 4 shows a week. Anna and I do the Monday show. It's the original show.
Yeah.
On Wednesday, I do a 15-minute show brought to you by my own vitamin company, Pure Vitamin Club. On Friday, I do a one-on-one where I bring in one luminary. As a matter of fact, I would love to have you on a one-on-one.
Cool.
Soon.
Thanks, man.
I bring in a luminary in the world of health and fitness. And then on Saturday, I do another 15-minute show where I have one listener. I pick one listener from the crowd and have them ask a question and I answer it. So we do 2 15-minute shows a week where we give real hard advice.
Yeah.
We cut out all the comedy and I just sit there and give the heart, not all the comedy, but most of it.
Right.
But this morning, just to give you an example, you know who Donald O'Neill is, the guy with the serial killer movies?
Oh, yeah. Okay.
He's got Serial Killers 2 coming out. And, I knew that I would be sitting there for an hour with Donald O'Neill talking about, ketosis and, all the stuff and Dr. Vinny, and we would be talking about the Fat Chance rowing guy and the whole thing. So Anna and I, before we brought him on, we did 15 minutes of, this game we play called Stripper NFL, where we throw out a fitness term
Yeah.
and we decide whether it would be a better name for a stripper or an NFL defensive back.
Of course, yeah.
And today the word was triglyceride.
Huh.
So when you take it here, would you like to play right now? We'll
Yeah,
use
let's do it.
Okay. Okay. You tell me which sounds better.
Okay.
Okay.
On triglyceride or the next one?
No, triglyceride. We're going to take triglyceride. Okay. First, we're going to do the stripper version.
Okay.
Okay, gentlemen, these women work for tips. Don't forget that. On stage 1, we have Miss Sierra. On stage 2, we have Miss Mammoth. And on stage 3, we have Miss Triglyceride.
That's
for the
not
first of 3.
That's not a good image in my head right there on the last one. I would have to go with NFL.
Well, let's try it on.
Okay.
Okay, Tom, we have 3rd and long. They really have to pick it up. On the players in action. Oh, stop short. Oh, stop by triglyceride. DB came up and just stopped it dry. Triglyceride Jones on the sack. So which one sounds better?
I think offensive lineman sounds best.
No, because offensive linemen are like guys with names from, they're big, goofy looking white guys with pimples.
Yeah, but say this guy renamed himself. I'm pretty sure that would be pretty close to what a lot of the guys are working with there.
Triglyceride Jones. Come on. There's been names like Plexico. There's a name.
Right.
Plexico.
Yeah, it's a brave new world.
Yeah, Plexico was a name. So Triglyceride Jones, that's obviously an NFL.
I think you're right.
But that's what we do on the show.
Yeah.
We do a couple of those things. We get people laughing, and then we bring on Donald O'Neill and talk about Ketosis. By the way, Ketosis, stripper or NFL player?
Yeah, let's talk about ketosis. A lot of people have questions about that.
What do you want to talk about ketosis? What do you want to say about it?
A lot of people.
Ask me a question.
Well, okay, so a lot of people, you're experienced with it,
Right.
not just within your own body, but other as a trainer, you've worked with that as well. People who are wondering what the heck it is and why it might help them, what would you say?
Well, first off, there's more surrounding the word ketosis than just, whether people are scared of ketosis. They think it's always, the animal you don't know that's lurking. And, my nephew, I put him in ketosis at one time. And by the way, I'm not the ketosis king. I just believe in fat adaptation. I don't believe that anyone and everyone should be in ketosis unless you have, a medical condition like I have the people coming on from First Do No Harm, the movie with Meryl Streep. They're coming on in a couple of days.
Cool.
If you have, a brain injury of some sort, or you have epilepsy, ketosis might be for you. I'm a cancer survivor. I'm told my cancer will come back. I live in ketosis a lot of the time because I just refuse to eat sugars and grains, and I do a lot of exercise. Therefore, my body falls into dietary ketosis, not ketoacidosis, which is a very dangerous state. You can die from it.
Right.
So that's the big kind of misconception that happens with ketosis. People go, my nephew, he went into ketosis and he was dating this nurse, and the nurse goes, whoa, you're gonna die. And Mikey was like, what do you mean I'm gonna die? She says, well, you're in ketoacidosis. And he calls me up, he goes, I'm in ketoacidosis. It's like, no, you're in dietary ketosis.
Yeah.
They're not the same thing. They're not even close. So that's one of the biggest misconceptions of ketosis.
Right. Now, at the same time, they're always talked about next to each other. So I think a lot of people, it's just they hear that, and it's easy to confound that in their own minds. But let's talk more about the cancer survival and why you choose to eat and live this way. So what's that all about? Why does that work?
Well, whenever I was, back in, I got cancer in 07, and I was, in remission in 08. But my doctor told me that I had leukemia, and she said that your type of remission means that the cancer will start to grow back. Your remission means you probably have 2 or 3% worth of cancer cells still mingling around in your bone marrow.
Sure. And
we can keep knocking it back with the same chemo that we knocked it back with before. But we're hoping not to let you get to, a 5-alarm fire. Most of my bone marrow, over 80% of it was leukemia cells.
Wow.
I was close to dead.
Yeah.
And So I said, okay, so we're going to be monitoring. At first, they were monitoring every 3 months, and then it's every 6 months. So I'm still on a 6 month monitoring of, cancer. And early on, I asked my hematologist, who I got lucky because I have a friend who's an oncologist who got me to the best hematologist in LA. Everyone goes, "Oh, this guy's the best," and you guys are down in Texas, and I know you have what's that place down in Houston, that cancer center.
Yeah.
I wasn't going to go all the way down to Houston
Right.
I can't think of the name of it, but the bottom line is, I found the best hematologist in LA through a doctor friend of mine who happened to be a famous oncologist.
Okay.
And I said to this woman, I said, look, everyone's coming to my bedside when I was dying saying that I would have to be on this micro diet and I would have to eat tons of vegetables and I would have to eat this way or eat that way for the rest of my life. Is there any truth to diet and cancer? And she said, the biggest thing coming down the pike when it comes to cancer is sugar.
Yeah.
I said, really? She said, test after test is showing that high amounts of sugar, cancer loves to use it to grow. It eats sugar to grow. That was the simple term she put it in.
Mm-hmm.
She wasn't going to get all deep. And I said, so there's some truth behind this. And she goes, absolutely. She goes, doesn't matter really which diet you eat, whatever you do, don't have refined sugars. And then I started looking into it and I go, well, in order to keep my clients thin, I keep them off of grains too. And I started playing around with that going, well, grains are the same as sugar because your liver really does not know the difference. By the time it gets there, it's all being metabolized the same way.
Mm-hmm.
And so I started this whole no sugars, no grains thing that I had been doing with my Hollywood clients for years. I started doing it with myself and was able to ride the bike just as well as I used to ride the bike and run just as well as I used to run and so on and so forth. So I started adopting this back in '08, of no sugars, no grains, and started, it became my mantra, so much so that I actually own the rights to it. I own NSNG is my trademark.
Yeah.
And that was the beginning of it. But my cancer was supposed to come back in about 5 years. And I've been clean since early '08.
Wow.
And we're in 2015. And I go in every 6 months and there is no trace of cancer in my bone marrow.
Yeah.
So you tell me. Now, in the interest of full disclosure, I've read where some people go a full 10 years before they have to get chemo again.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm still within some kind of range.
Yeah.
But most people get it after 5 years.
Yeah.
It comes back.
Right.
So I'm beating the odds.
That's awesome, man. And you've also been, you've pushed your body in the meantime too. Anyone who's read your book knows that well. Let's talk about that. So a lot of people, when they consider, especially as athletes, becoming fat adapted or playing around with ketosis, they hear a lot of people saying their results will go down, their times will go up, they'll lose strength, they'll lose vitality, endurance, whatever it is. What do you have to say about that?
At first, that will happen.
Yeah.
If you're going to try it on for a week or two or even a month, your results, your times go down. But I went a lot longer because I figured I'm not trying to win a race. I'm trying to stay alive.
Right. Yeah. Different goals.
I had bigger face to fry.
Sure.
So I went in that direction. And then I noticed after a month, after 2 months, my time started coming back. And after 6 months, I figured, oh, I'm so fat adapted now. I've been in ketosis forever.
Yeah.
My times are really coming back. But I'm telling you, even after a year, my times got stronger and stronger to where I'm back to where I used to be. Absolutely no sugar whatsoever.
Yeah.
I used to, I tell other people, if you're cycling up a hill or you're running up a hill and you start running low on energy, you can trickle a little sugar. And if you're fat adapted, that sugar will feel like someone gave you EPO.
Yeah.
But I don't even do that anymore.
Really?
I climbed Mount Whitney last summer and did an excellent time and basically did it on no food.
Wow.
I did it literally on the fat that was in my body.
Yeah.
I brought some UCAN with me. As you know, UCAN is a bastardized form of carbohydrate. And I had one bottle about this size. As a matter of fact, there was one of these bottles with UCAN in it.
Anyone who's listening, that's like a water bottle size.
About 25 ounces. And the bottom line is I came back home with half of that bottle full. Uh,
Wow.
I, I did Mount Whitney, the highest point in the contiguous United States last summer.
Yeah.
We took our time to do it. We went up in record time and we kind of smelled the roses on the way down. So it took about 14 hours. That was
14
a
hours.
14-hour day
Yeah.
where I just lived on fat
Yeah.
the entire time, my own body fat.
How much do you think you burned through on an adventure like that?
A lot going up because we
Yeah.
kind of hoofed it up
Okay.
because we were with a friend of ours that likes to, he hikes for time.
Mm-hmm.
And we got up there in short order, all through the switchbacks and that whole thing. And by the way, my breakfast, if people want to know what the breakfast was, while I was taking my tent down, I pulled out my little Coleman stove and I made a ton of eggs that I split with Serena, who did the trek with me.
Oh, nice.
And I made some bacon. So we had bacon and eggs for breakfast at 2 o'clock in the morning while I was striking the tent. And then we folded it up, threw it, packed it up, left it there, and went up the mountain on that food.
Wow.
Um,
Bacon and eggs, 14 hours climbing a
yeah,
mountain.
yeah, the equivalent of probably 5 eggs, the equivalent of 4 slices of bacon was what I had for 14 hours.
Wow. So
Yeah.
let me ask you this. Why, or have you tried not having that 2 a.m. meal before the trek? Like, what happens to your body if you go even longer fasting or only fat?
I'm not big into fasting.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? People like to do intermittent fasting. I don't do it. Could I have, woken that morning and had nothing and done the trek? I don't know.
Yeah.
You know, that egg and bacon breakfast had to last me easily past daybreak.
And there's a
You
lot to be
know,
said for morale at that point. The smell of bacon, as
oh yeah,
opposed to just like the cold, hard morning. It's a different
yeah.
thing.
It was chilly. You wake up, you have your down jacket on, and your hands are freezing and the whole thing. I
Yeah.
couldn't wait to get that stove going, and
Right.
I had bacon all in my clothes and where I smell. It was just, it's
It's
just something so guttural.
Well, it's more of a ritual at that point, right? I stand by this that the best food I've ever had was when I was backpacking for like a week in the mountains in New Hampshire, and it was a dehydrated bean burrito. It was just like divine at that point
Yeah,
because it
yeah,
was all hot and gooey. And man, we had just been, pretty much surviving on nothing for a while, or just gorp, and that gets old
yeah.
after a while.
Well, and I was just talking to Donald about this with the Serial Killers 2 movie, which is more about the athletic performance
Hmm.
of, people who eat high fat diets. And he's talking about, let's see, it's in my notes here. That guy is Meredith Loring and her husband, Sami uh, Inkinian. I can't pronounce his last name, but they just did the Fat Chance rowing competition from San Francisco to Hawaii. So
Wow.
they're out in a boat for 50 some odd days. And they did, they called it the Fat Chance rowing. They called their expedition that
Yeah.
because they were going to eat only fat. They were both in dietary ketosis. Now, they didn't just get there on high fat. They broke the record for the
Really?
crossing between San Francisco and Hawaii.
Huh.
Not only that, they didn't just break the record, they beat many of the four-man teams, and this is a mixed man-woman team.
Wow.
But there's more. In the last 5 days, they rode 18 hours a day for 5 days. And I saw the video. They got out of that boat and they looked like they stepped off of an airplane in Hawaii. There was no
Really?
inflammation. They didn't look worn out.
Yeah.
They didn't have any muscle atrophy. They didn't have that look you get when you take in too many carbs, where you get like
Right.
that elephantitis look.
Mm-hmm.
And Donald was there for it at the end. And he said, these people, the next day, they were out dancing and having fun. They went to a concert. Everyone else was showing up half dead. And these
Right.
people were just living life like nothing happened.
Wow. What
Yeah.
fat were they eating?
A lot of, you made me think about it, a lot
Yeah.
of dehydrated meat. He was eating a lot of nuts at first, but he felt like he was eating too many nuts
Okay.
and it was kind of getting to him. He was overdosing on nuts.
Yeah.
So he ate mostly high dehydrated meat. She ate more coconut oil and that kind of thing because she's a vegan. She's a high
Really?
fat vegan. So it's one of each.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
And
cool.
you got to see this movie when it comes out. He
Yeah.
sent me an advanced copy, And I was watching it when I was on that spinner right there, right behind me,
Yeah.
a few days ago. And I'm like, wow. And Stephen Finney is coming out with some reports with my buddy Zach Bitters and all of these guys who are doing this incredible stuff. They're
Yeah.
getting world records now on high fat diets.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Do you know how long they were in ketosis before that? Was it like years, like you said? Did it take them time to kind of get back up to that and then keep going?
Don't know.
Yeah,
That I don't know. And the movie didn't really explain it, but I will get them on the show.
totally.
And we'll talk to them about it and talk about how they did it and how they felt the whole time. And I'm excited about this because,
Yeah.
it's, and Dom DiAgostino, right? Dominic. They're doing work. Our federal government, the Army Division or the Marines, they've been financing that guy for 9 years, who's been doing studies on having these high-end people, these Navy SEAL teams and all this stuff
Yeah.
on ketogenic diets because they can perform better and they can react better. And,
Hmm.
there's all kinds of studies going on around that. So it's all good.
Cool. Well, we're coming up on time. Let's leave people with a piece of practical advice. Say you're going out on this, say you're pedaling or rowing across a country or an ocean. What are you putting in your pack to eat?
I would keep coconut oil or MCT oil handy,
Yeah.
realizing that it takes a long time to get your stomach to build up to it. It's not some kind of miracle food. It will screw you over. It takes time. If I got to carry everything with me, and let's say I'm out doing the Iditarod by foot,
Hmm.
1,200 mile in the tundra race, I'm keeping a lot of dehydrated meat, and I'm keeping a gun and a few bullets on hand so I can kill stuff along the way. Because,
Dehydrated meat, is that like jerky or something else? What are you talking
well,
about there?
it would have to be more pemmican style
Yeah.
because when you start thinking jerky, they use a lot of sugar to cure
Right.
that, so you can end up taking in a lot of sugar. But there's some pemmican foods out there. You can probably go online and find it.
Make it
I'd
yourself.
probably
It's not
carry
that
a lot
hard
of
either.
that. Say again?
And making it yourself, like pâtés and pemmican and stuff like that, is pretty easy.
Yeah. Do you guys give recipes for that in your? Are you going to do recipes for that?
Yeah, we have some already, and we have some more coming for sure. But
Cool.
I love organ meats; they're awesome.
Yeah.
Especially when you're out like that. They're even these little. They're not perfect. They're not the cleanest. But when you're out backpacking, like this little, it's almost like cat food full of pâté. It's this tiny little thing, and that. Just put a little bit on a cracker, and that will make you feel better for like 3 days, just about your life in general.
Yeah, we do a lot of that. The other thing we do, and once I get my shoulder fixed, I'll probably get back to some more ultra racing. My arthritis is so bad in my right shoulder now
Yeah.
that they're going to replace the shoulder later this
Oh,
year.
really?
And Serena and I, we talk about this all the time. We boil down whole chickens, and we get to that, what is it called when you beat it down, you crush the bones and do the whole thing.
Oh, yeah. That sludge.
Yeah,
I
and
love
then
that
we
stuff.
put it in the fridge, and it's like a gelatin. You can just take out of the fridge and take that fat gelatin and
Mhm.
just heat it up, and it, as Serena says, it goes down to your toes.
It does.
That's the only way to describe it.
You feel that stuff when you have bone broth or collagen
Yeah.
or something like that. It's you almost get a head high from it. You can
Oh,
really.
you
It's one of the
do?
It's one of the
Yeah.
foods you can really feel.
We run on it, we cycle on it, we do everything on that stuff.
Hmm.
If I'm going out for a long day of shooting, I shoot, trap and sporting clay, and it takes a lot of, concentration, and you're
Right.
standing on that line for a long time. Bone broth is the best thing you can have. You can stay there forever and shoot and concentrate.
Hmm.
It's just an amazing food.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So you got that stuff. You got the meats, fresh meats, if you're gonna hunt them or catch them on the way.
Yeah.
Anything else?
It takes up a lot of space, but cruciferous vegetables, I'm still a huge fan. All the broccoli, Brussels sprouts, asparagus, cauliflower you can get.
Hmm.
If you need to somehow puree it to get more of it in, I'm just a huge fan of the cruciferous veggies. Kale is the new, wonder child of the leafy greens.
Right.
It's considered a cruciferous.
Uh-huh.
Enjoy it. People think that, oh, you and Abel, you guys just sit around and eat meat, and no. Abel, I sat with you. We ate a ton of vegetables at the
Yeah.
last.
If we
right?
eat anything, it's an ungodly amount of vegetables.
if anyone ever showed up, they would go, "Oh, they're at least vegetarian because we had eggs that day.
Right.
We had eggs and we had big giant salads."
Yeah.
Right. And I was leaving some of my salad, and your petite girlfriend went, "Are you going to eat that?" I went, "No." She picked it up and just finished it. You know.
That's what we do.
Yeah.
It's the best. What about, so what's your fat of choice? Is it MCT's coconut oil?
Um, Probably. I like fat on meat.
Yeah.
That's just my fat of
The
choice.
drippings.
Yeah. I love red meat.
Yeah.
I also like the fat from fish. I'm a guy, and JJ Virgin and I talk about this a lot. I not only eat fish most days, I take in fish oil twice a day.
Yeah.
And that's something else I used to do sporadically, but since cancer, and again, brain food. You want to talk about
Right.
brain food, omega 3s,
Mm-hmm.
DHAs. I mean, go get yourself the best fish oil you can possibly afford.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of a supplement guy. I don't believe in taking, bodybuilding supplements and everything in the health food store. That's not
Right.
what we're talking about here. But if you can supplement your food with a multivitamin, that as you know, I came out with purevitaminclub.com,
Mm-hmm.
and that's all about, just giving you what you need.
Yeah.
And it's the only pure vitamin on the market right now that doesn't have any fillers or anything else. And that's my company. I'm kind of giving myself an ad here, but I'm being honest about it. I own this company,
Yeah.
but I wanted to make a vitamin for me to take.
Right.
Something that didn't have titanium dioxide,
Right.
and something that didn't have magnesium stearate or any kind of excipients or flow agents.
Yeah.
It's just a pure vitamin. It's what we need.
There was
It's
just
real
another
food.
investigation that found that the supplements in Walmart and the multivitamins, the whatever, don't actually contain what they say they contain, and have a bunch of other fillers and gunk, and who knows what's in that stuff. So it's really important, like you said, Vinny, whenever you're taking something, eating something, know where it came from, know what's
Yeah.
in it, and trust it. Like you need to be able to know that it comes from a place that's pure and not
Yeah.
not from a marketer.
And by the way, that's why we did because I kept looking around going, what's titanium dioxide? And why
Right.
does every vitamin
Why do I
have
have to
that
look
in
at
it?
that?
And I went out and looked. You know what titanium dioxide is used for?
Tell us.
It's used to whiten paint. And they use it to whitewash vitamins so that then they can add in another chemical to give it a nice orange hue.
Right.
And most companies use that. And I decided, who cares what their vitamin looks like? Let's
Right.
just create a vitamin and put it out there. And I literally made it for myself.
Mm-hmm.
But in order to afford it for myself, I had to open it up to the people who listen to the Angry Trainer podcast.
Right.
So purevitaminclub.com was created. And I was shocked that name was available, by the way.
Totally.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
But that company does well. It's doing, people are, I'm shocked that it's doing so well.
Yeah.
And,
Well,
I'm
that's
happy.
great, man. That's
Yeah.
great. Well, it's been a true pleasure to kind of like come up in the ranks together out of nowhere, and hopefully people are having some fun along the way.
Yeah.
Vinny, I consider you a true friend. Well, let's leave people with one piece of practical advice, since you're so bad at that, before we go.
God, you put me on the spot.
You're a trainer.
Practical advice.
Yeah.
If you do anything, if you're starting this journey and you're just getting into it, the first thing you need to do, besides dropping sugars and grains, is dropping any sort of artificial sweetener
Yeah.
you're taking. That stuff is a pure carcinogen. Stop it right now. Don't say I'll stop it next week. You're hearing this broadcast. Look at what you're doing. If you're putting it in your coffee, if you're drinking soft drinks and what have you, stop right now. That will kill you quicker than a cigarette.
Totally. Awesome, man. Thank you so much for that. Vinny, where can people find you?
You can find me at vinnytortorich.com, spelled VINNIE TORTORICH. I'm on Twitter and Facebook and all those places. You could go to the Angriest Trainer podcast and find us there, or purevitaminclub.com.
Angriest Trainer podcast is awesome. If you guys like infotainment, it's one of the best ones out there. So definitely go check it out. Vinny, thank you so much. We'll chat with you soon.
Thank you.